hear the Muppet theme song right now.
It's a session now, international, and it's gonna start the security table.
Well, what a way to start with a little rendition from the Muppets. So I don't even know how to explain the Muppets, so I won't try. Just Google it, read the Wikipedia entry if you don't know what we're speaking about. It's from many years ago, but it's still
you can find it streaming somewhere.
Yes, I should find it. I would love to watch those shows again. All right. Well, the three of us were coming off a visit to our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., where we hosted the first ever threat modeling conference. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm just running on fumes today. But luckily, I still have snark available even when I'm running on fumes. So it may even get worse. So just, parental warning, there may be a higher level of snarkiness in this. So we've got a special topic too. So it's kind of like a perfect storm where everything's coming together for the storm of the century right here. So we want to take a look at an article. And I'm going to just
unload on this topic, aren't you?
Me? I may. I've been unloading on this topic for the last month or two, if you might remember. But
month or two?
Okay, longer. So the title of the article is from Forbes, and it is 20 Tech Experts Share Essential Details to Look For in an SBOM. And this is an expert panel from the Forbes Council's member, Forbes Technology Council.
That's an awful
fee-based.
Yeah, so that's a good thing. It does say membership fee-based. We're doing is reporting the news here. It does say that in the byline of this particular item. And so I know as we were going through this and looking at the various things, we definitely had some questions. And so let me just read off the first one that we want to comment on. An open source dependency tree, number 1 on their list. Because components and pieces of code are often dependent on others, one of the most complex challenges in application security is open source dependency management. SBOM should include an open source dependency tree so users can see the core components of an application and where they come from to help engineers quickly identify and manage dependencies in the code. This one seems like it's pretty good. It seems to be
literally the definition of an SBOM.
It's a definition, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
well, you should always start with the definition, though, for anything.
But it's not exactly a detail to look for.
Yeah, an SBOM shouldn't include it. An SBOM does include it.
Okay, but it is a detail you should look for. Like you should look. I mean, if an SBOM didn't have an open source dependency tree, would it be anything?
It's not
It's not even an SBOM.
It would be text.
Well, so here's an interesting question. Let's just. I want to tease out 2 parts to this. There's a notion of top-level components versus transient components, right? So what you embed. Actually, what you have, what those things embed, and then what those things embed, and the hierarchy.
Transient or transitive?
Transitive.
Transitive. Yes, sorry, not transitive. Well, transient would be if they came and went. Yeah. Transitive.
Yeah, that's a whole new category you just invented of open source package. Or transient. So they come into the packet, they come into the app, and then they just leave whenever they want to.
Go.
Actually, I will say that we probably see these pretty commonly, right? Where if you have suites of tools where some of those things are optional, you may have transient components in runtime, not necessarily at deploy time or at package time. I mean, Linux distros are the same way if you think about it.
Not to mention stuff that gets downloaded at runtime.
That's right. So that's not unreasonable.
The source of all my nightmares is when you just keep feeding into these are my nightmares. Okay, but get us to the the one issue I have with this, and this is just me, is probably just me, is the dependence, is the insistence that SBOM is only for open source. Certainly, open source code is considered risky for some reason, not without reason, but commercial components or non-open source components are likewise necessary to be tracked. So SBOM helps with tracking those components, understanding what's in. Commercial components just are operated under a different license. So why rely solely on open source here? Why focus solely on open source? Right. Okay. So let's move on to number 2. Yes. Let's have some fun here. So this one says a library with version numbers. Make sure that vendors include open source packages and libraries with clearly marked version numbers delivered in a machine-readable format so you're able to check vulnerabilities in those of nested dependencies. Having an SBOM at the start of a contract is good, but having one that is up to date and includes a live data feed is best. Rather than point-in-time security, you have continuous assurance.
So this is reasonable. It goes a bit more into the definition, but to tell you the truth, the live data feed threw me.
That's right. It's a
how about continuous assurance?
SBOM doesn't do that.
You want to put an RSS feed in an SBOM? Hey, this is the SBOM today, but if you want more details in a continuous way, follow this feed.
I think
and don't forget to subscribe.
You invented an RSS bomb.
I think that's what you exactly did.
SBOM.
Yeah, if your SBOM was posted as an XML feed that you could get regular updates from, first, so let's just take a step back about what an SBOM is describing, right? An SBOM is describing point in time, a system, and what components it includes. Now, let's say for a moment this is a product that you ship, or it's a software application that you're providing to somebody. When you ship that, it's not going to change. Right? It's going to be pretty set in stone at that point in time. When you deliver SP1, it will change, but then you'll have an SBOM for SP1, not an SBOM for pre-SP1.
Yeah. So I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and say that this is during development. So you do your SBOM in the beginning, and he's saying, don't keep that one, right? So continuously update your SBOM as you build. But at delivery time, that's what Matt said. It goes out frozen in time, and hopefully signed.
So I'm softening on the first statement here, because when I originally read this about making sure you have libraries that are clearly marked with version numbers, I was like, who has a package that isn't labeled with a version number? But then I started thinking about it, though. If you're building software, if you're building packages internally for inclusion in your applications that are not in NPM, they're not in the various public, Maven or public repositories, you could not have proper versioning. So you could violate that constraint. So I've softened on that first thing. We got to unpack, what the heck is continuous assurance?
Oh my God.
Is that like continuous delivery, but just better? Or
No. It's a very rare thing in our industry. It's called a buzzword. It has absolutely no meaning behind it.
All right,
it's aspirational.
I'm going to be positive here with Elliot's suggestion of you will.
No
I would have
names,
read
no
it
names.
different. I would have. Well, people go read the article are going to see who the person is. So I think what it should have said is you can have continuous assurance, not that you imply you will have.
It contributes to. But it
allows you.
Sure.
It allows you to. The SBOM gives you the ability to then hook it up to some sort of engine that goes. Yes, a tool of some sort that goes and looks. This component, these set of components have these versions. Do these versions now have vulnerabilities?
Yep. So
good point.
I wouldn't call it assurance. I wouldn't call it assurance, though. I would call it continuous monitoring or continuous management.
That's true, but it could be interpreted as I am looking for continual assurance by doing the monitoring.
Well, no, continual assurance is different than continuous assurance.
Yes, if you're running this in a CI/CD pipe, if you're running this in a CI/CD pipeline, and your SBOM, if your SBOM is consumed by the CI/CD, it could do the checking on a continuous basis, right? CI/CD, continual delivery, continual integration. Why not continual validation of patches from embedded components?
So again, I think that we can agree that 2 is more in the building side of things than in the delivery side of things, right?
Probably,
but it's the basic functionality of.
I mean, you could
all agree it's the basic functionality of an SBOM.
You could continue it into runtime, I think. In other words, if you had a monitoring tool that could consume those components and validate them against NVD on a regular basis, then that supports some level of assurance.
Okay.
So, all right, let's go to 5.
5? You don't want to do
5.
What's it? Okay, yeah, 5.
Well, it's 3 and 4. Well, 4 especially is, again, definition of SBOM.
For us, the same thing,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I felt like that wasn't adding anything into the debate for us. But
But
I mean,
3
number
sort of
5
trips me a bit,
Which one?
right? 3.
3.
Because it asks, an SBOM should have clear language as to how the software is updated and supported. I'm sorry, the SBOM doesn't contain any information about the process.
It
The SBOM
can.
just
I mean,
is.
metadata. You could give metadata.
You can put the Bible in metadata, but should you? I mean, it's not a contract on how you're going to do updating.
That's true.
It's not driving any kind of automation. So
Hold on. I got a great idea. Let's create something new called process bombs.
you remember what happened in the beginning of this week when we started creating bombs, right? It did not go well.
And I will also highlight. Go take a look at Cyclone DX sometime.
Yeah,
Because
it
Cyclone
does
DX
have
has a lot of
stuff in
capability.
there. But again, I've spoken with Steve a number of times. I had interviews with him, and Cyclone DX is getting big, and it's encompassing a lot of things, and I love that. But it's it's making formal a lot of information that we have out there to drive pipelines. But that doesn't mean that there's a consumer on the side. That there may be data in there, but nothing is listening and using it yet.
And for those playing along at home, the Steve Izar is referring to is Steve Springett, the project lead for Cyclone DX, dependency track, and recent global board of directors was elected to the global board.
Yeah. But inductee. But just to point out, to me, Steve is like, personally, just me. Steve, to me, is the ultimate source of all that is SBOM related.
True. And we can get into that later. I mean, on a LinkedIn post, I was trolling SBOMs again, fourth time.
My threat model was cooler than your SBOM.
Gassed.
That was nice. Yeah. My threat model, definitely. Izar is responsible for that. My threat model is cooler than your SBOM statement and sticker that you could get. But Steve finally weighed in, and like I told him when I saw him, I was like, I've been waiting. Oh, look at that.
Remember this from like
oh yeah,
how long ago was this from? This was previous
true.
episode.
That was early in security table, but yeah, so
it's still current.
Yeah, but it was good to see Steve weighed in on that topic and finally confirm for me, because I'm the same way. If Steve says it about SBOM, I'm pretty much I'm believing it. Like, he's in the middle of this, he's driving this thing, and he even said, like, yeah, you know what, the whole sharing thing, I don't know that I see it either. And that was my whole point. So I'm like, okay, if Steve sees it that way, then maybe I'm onto something. But we got to keep going here. All right.
Yeah,
so,
I just want to call out for those again. Also following along at home, SPDX is the other format for SBOM.
Yes.
So you have Cyclone DX and SPDX as the two competing standards for SBOM.
All right, so I'm going to skip over number 5. It just doesn't look as good as number 8, which I think is going to start a fight between you guys, and I just want to watch that happen. So, number 8 says whether the SBOM is generated dynamically or manually, and so I forget what side of this issue you guys are on. So, who's the dynamic generation and who's the manual generation?
I do the dynamic, but with the caveat that I need a better definition of what the manual is. Like, is the manual just clicking a button and starting a process, or is I'm going to go look for the versions and write them down in
Matt was arguing that not necessarily that he does them manually, but for the ability, right, to be able to. So let's ask him if you're going to argue the point, you got to be able to define what the thing is.
So I think the danger of solely relying on dynamic. So I want to be careful. There's parts to SBOM creation, some of which deserve to be manual, some deserve to be automatic. So you need inventory. You need an inventory first. You have to do discovery. And we know that discovery is challenging, right? There are tools out there. I'm not going to go into them. We shouldn't, for better or for a lot of worse, that discovery of components is hard, especially when we're talking about transitive dependencies. Right. So when you have a top level, you may have a bill of materials as part of your build process. You may or may not know what packages are included. It depends on a host of things, what language you're in, what type of system, what technology you're building. And so you may miss things if you rely entirely on automated discovery. So building your inventory may require some manual effort. Once you have an inventory, dynamic generation is absolutely essential, right? You should be able to take a spreadsheet or take a flat file or a CSV or whatever of a component inventory and produce an SBOM using code. That I 100% agree with. And that's when I say dynamic, I mean dynamically, considering that dynamic discovery is error prone, but dynamic generation of the actual SBOM content is a requirement.
Isn't manualness of this, and Izar, I want you to come in on this, but I want to get this thought out because I want to get Matt's take on this before we switch to the dynamic side. Isn't manualness of SBOM generation a lack of maturity?
I would say yes, aside from the fact that who in their right mind wants to deal with handwriting JSON? I mean, yeah, it's an easy language or structure, data structure for people to read, but you can easily get it wrong when you're doing it by hand. There are plethora of tools out there for building JSON content, auto manual, right? And so again, the discovery part is the hard part for me, always has been. Right? Once I have an inventory, putting it in SBOM format, why not automate that? Is our now on the same page, or are we still at loggerheads here?
No. I mean, you put the manual thing into context, but where I'm going to sort of disagree with you is that, and just disclosure, my first startup 30 years ago was all about opening RPMs and debs and whatnots and finding out the dependencies. And I don't think that as a rule, the package managers and package inventories have gone much better than they were at that time, right? But they are still able to at least give you a good tree of things that depend on things that depend on things. And we do have more tools available nowadays to cover those things that don't come as part of a package manager. Mm-hmm. Where I have a problem with manual stuff is that at the end of the day, even if we consider the boundaries and the defects of these tools that generate inventories, I think that they are bound to, over time, as part of a process, generate less errors than a person invested in those processes. So the person writing, the person discovering, the person figuring out, I think that there is just a higher chance of error over time than a process that you might refine and end up figuring out what it's missing and just fixing that specific problem.
I think we're on the same page. It goes back to that notion of tool assisted, right?
True.
We know that many of those tools will misreport components that they discover. Either it can't figure out what version it is, or reports multiple versions, maybe it reports multiple licenses, and SBOM, obviously licensing is important here. And so it needs to be tool assisted. I will highlight or just reiterate the fact that there are some things like statically linked code modules and or pieces of source code that get included, which are components, but they're written, taken in source form, that are built in, that won't show up in package managers, right? Mm-hmm. That does require some sort of human intelligence, at least today, to figure out that they're there, or to properly interpret the results that come from the tools that do the automatic discovery. Yep. So I think we're on the same page in that regard. The other part of number 8, I think here is about time sensitivity. And absolutely, that's a great call out for the reason that we said when you ship something, you'll fix the SBOM in time. So obviously, whatever process you have has to run in whatever time you have between inclusion and packaging and release.
Yep, definitely.
Okay. Well, I was hoping for a lot more spirited debate on this issue.
We're tired.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You're unable to raise the level.
Oh, wait. But why don't we go to 9? Why don't we start with 9?
Oh, my goodness.
What's wrong with 9?
What's not?
Does that what does SBOM have related to which protocols you're running?
I think there's a crypto bomb.
There is a crypto bomb, but it's not an SBOM. But it's not an SBOM.
Aren't all bombs S-bombs?
No, SBOMs are software bill of materials. Crypto bombs
Yeah, but
are
it's
crypto
become
bill
a
of materials.
generic term.
Has it? Are you sure?
I'm afraid so. I'm afraid it has.
Oh, great. So HBOM is covered then.
I think so. I
So
think when
hardware and software are
when
the same thing?
the general population talks that has heard of a SBOM, I don't think the general population has perspective on all the various types of bombs that we do because we've looked at the issue.
Only Cyclone DX has different types of bombs, though, right? SPDX only has SBOM.
Oh,
And when you talk to CISA, I think when you look at CISA, they explicitly call out software bill of materials.
Okay.
So when people are talking SBOM in the attestation space, I think they're only looking at SBOM.
So this number 9 specifically says SBOMs with deprecated algorithms will soon be obsolete and costly to upgrade. So it doesn't say CBOM or crypto bomb or anything like that. So is this just a twisting?
I think it's a language problem, right? Like having a deprecated OpenSSL version. First off, an SBOM that contains an OpenSSL version that's deprecated means the package that the SBOM is for has a deprecated OpenSSL version. I absolutely could see that would be a costly problem to upgrade. But I don't believe, and maybe you guys know, but I don't believe that the SBOM format itself actually describes what functionality those components have. Meaning it's a component version, licensing, and potentially other metadata, but not directly what functions you're calling or whether you're using, X, Y, and Z algorithm from it.
I'm looking at this one still, number 9, and I'm like, is this just a way to answer the question to promote what it is that you do? I know that sounds slightly mean, but like, does this have any? I don't get this. Doesn't have anything to do with SBOM. This is like it's calling for crypto agile software that's crypto agile. That's quantum safe, has NIST quantum safe standards. Like this sounds like this might be a recommendation that I should use somebody's product. Kind of interwoven.
It's a great design. It's a great design pattern, right? You should design crypto agility into your system. Absolutely. You should definitely design in the use of quantum safe algorithms. Absolutely. Do you have the ability to store that in an SBOM and transmit that to
that's what
consumers?
I'm saying. It's a different message.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a message that's just been put into squeezed into an SBOM sized box when in fact it is a crypto sized rectangle. I'm stretching. This is a real stretch. Let's look at number 10 because I did a little research about number 10 because I wanted to make sure I want to be careful.
Okay.
So number 10 talks about data residency and how we should look at data residency because it affects how and where data is stored. Different countries and regions have different laws. Laws can impact data owners, controllers. I searched the Cyclone DX standard, which is a public document. I can't find anything about data residency in the standard itself. So does this have anything to do with SBOM? Or what are you concluding?
I think it's like 9. It may be optional extra data that could be encoded in the SBOM, but it's not standard as part of the specification.
Yep.
You have metadata. You can store a ton of stuff in metadata.
You can put whatever you want in there.
Yeah.
True.
But so I guess what this author is calling out is there should be information that you encode in the SBOM. And I guess it may depend on what the SBOM is representing. If the SBOM is representing a desktop application, really somebody's going to install it. They're going to run it locally. Maybe it talks to a database locally. Even maybe it talks to a database within a local network. You don't really have a data residency problem. If that SBOM is representative of a SaaS service, however, or a cloud-enabled, multi-site cloud-enabled thing, then data residency obviously would matter. And you may want to encode that information. I don't know that an SBOM, though, is the right place to put it, like a data sheet or other, an admin guide or something might be a better place for that.
Yeah, I mean, the worst thing you could do is try to squeeze everything into an SBOM. Like an SBOM is not the single format to rule all formats that's going to contain everything. Well, you need to put everything about your product into the SBOM. Well, the SBOM is 12.7 terabytes. Let me just send it over to you so you can process it. Right?
Oh, by the way, it's text.
Yeah, it's text. It's not encrypted. So it's a lot of, you got a lot of work to go with it. All right, I think we got enough out of that one. So how about, let's take a look at 16. How many and which functions are enabled? These days, most software products are consumed as software with multiple functions that can be charged separately. So we're talking about functions like capabilities or things that you could be charging. So like features almost. Per user, per device, one item businesses should thoroughly check is how many of these functions are enabled, used, and leveraged. Enterprises often use multiple products with redundant functions, and eliminating redundancies can result in massive savings. I think that's a true statement.
True statement, not an SBOM thing.
What the heck does it have to do with SBOM?
Look, again, it's the kitchen sink, right? So
yeah,
I think that people are interpreting SBOMs really aspirationally. Like somebody told them this is going to solve all their problems. So people are like projecting all their problems into the SBOM. But again, we go into there is nothing on the other side consuming this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, what would that even look like? So first off, you produce an SBOM for product, right? And so if you have multiple products, you'd have multiple SBOMs. And what, you're going to look across them and go, oh, both of them are using OpenSSL. Therefore, one of them must be redundant.
That is an astute assessment of this challenging statement. All right, I think enough on that one. I think we've.
Can we go back to 13 for a moment?
I mean, we can go anywhere we want.
Yeah, let's go back to. We
can make up a new one.
Let's go back to a 13 for a moment.
Well, no, this one kind of ties into 12 though. This is kind of the name. How long it takes to receive the SBOM is not indicative of the actual content of what was stated here. Because I get what he's saying. Like his point is, if somebody can't put together an SBOM, and I heard this from somebody at the conference last week, if somebody can't put together an SBOM, that could be an indicator that they're really bad at security and building software.
Or they don't have automation in place.
Which in this day and age, if you tell me you don't have a build pipeline for a piece of software, I ain't buying it. I'm sorry. I'm not taking something that you're compiling on some developer's machine. If you don't have that, because it's not hard to do that. Like pipelines are everywhere. Like you can get a free license to a pipeline SaaS provider and you can wire up your build process in an afternoon. So there's no excuse to say, well, we just don't have the ability to do automation. Well, then you don't have the ability to receive my money. So
what I'm hearing is that the automated way is better.
For the construction of the SBOM, perhaps, yes. We 100% agree.
And for building software in a standard way, yes, of course, automated is always going to be better because it's a standard set of steps. You want it to do the same thing in the same order every time versus the developer going, oh, you know what I forgot, Matt? I forgot to run the SAS scanner. That's what it was. Oh, that's why we got compromised. I knew it. I knew there was a reason.
Or I forgot to include OpenSSL. I mean,
yeah. Oh, you needed OpenSSL? Come on. I didn't. I had an old version. I just what I had on my laptop.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's what I used.
The other piece I want to pick out of this actually is kind of interesting. The very last sentence is if it's the latter. So if they're scrambling to produce it on demand, you should scrutinize the accuracy and quality of the dependencies. And I think this is a little bit misses the mark, but it does raise another question. So if you have a software package and you are trying to put together top-level dependencies, That's one problem, right? The producer of the software owns those dependencies, manages those dependencies. What might be missing, though, is if you're looking for the transitive information, and those don't have SBOMs from those vendors. And as a software producer, you should be looking at your supply chain and getting SBOMs from them, as opposed to trying to piece one together yourself for the components that you embed. Then I could definitely see looking at that and go, this software includes components that has a questionable supply chain.
All right, we're gonna pick up 18, 19, and 20. So let's focus in here. And I know 19 is one that Matt, you have expressed is something that you think is the best part of the advice. We got to deal with 18 first. I'm sorry. The delivery address. I'm just going to read this verbatim because sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. A key item to look for when requesting a software bill of materials is the delivery address. This could have a large impact on how taxes are applied or excluded from the bill.
Oh my God. Look, kitchen sink.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I'm speechless.
No. I actually parsed this with somebody that we valued, and 18 and 20. We parsed it together, and we got a theory.
The final price. Yeah.
We got a theory on the thought behind it. Software bill of materials can also be interpreted as a bill of materials for someone who bought software. So we are talking here about people who think of shrink-wrapped boxes of CDs being delivered somewhere. And those are listed in a bill of materials. And because what's being delivered is a software, then it's a software bill of materials. So,
but isn't this hold on, let me go back to, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to scroll back to the top. Just give me a second.
No. Wait. What happened here is that somebody opened a drawer.
20 tech experts share essential details to look for in an SBOM.
Yeah, but they don't say experts in what.
Okay. Touche.
So, right. I mean, obviously, there are bills of material that can contain software today. Right? We hardware bills of material, bills of material for systems do exist, and they can contain line items that include software. But that's not what we're talking about here.
Look, the main question here is, who is this bill and what materials did he buy?
and where did he buy them? Because apparently that matters for tax.
All right, so 20 was just talking about the final price, which kind of plays into this whole thing with it's like these folks are just not talking about the same thing that we think of as SBOMs.
No, I have to be honest here. The first time that I read this article, I had to take a moment and go, am I missing what's happening here? I mean, these guys are experts. I'm not. There's a lot going on the SBOM world that I have no idea.
The second sentence on the final price, number 20. Then work your way up. SBOMs will have line items that list changes if the final figure is not what you expect.
Wait. I think that we have to read the whole thing.
Oh, okay. Always check on the final price to make sure there are no figures that are higher than the original expectations and statement. Let's stop there. We can just stop there. Remember, an SBOM contains...
Do not pay for open source software more than they are asking for.
So, is there an invoice inside of the SBOM that I'm not aware of?
There's certainly a voice inside something.
All right, we got to end on a high note here, okay? Because Matt we can't just be the guys from the Muppet Show that are up in the balcony throwing down just snark and comments.
I'm sorry, we definitely can. We just won't.
We can, but we have the ability.
That would have been a good Halloween costume.
That is 100% true, and I think I'm going to wear it.
I did my bit.
All right, so let's read number 19, because Matt read number 19, and he was just gaga about this. So 19 says a VEX Document, which stands for Vulnerability Exploitability Exchange. An SBOM is only an inventory. Yes. When requesting an SBOM,
that's the statement.
You also, that's it? No, when requesting an SBOM, you also want to request a VEX, or a Vulnerability Exploitability Exchange document. A VEX document is a companion to an SBOM that lists the actual vulnerabilities present in the software, whereas an SBOM only lists the components. With both items in hand, you can begin to better understand the risk posed by using a vendor's software.
I want to give kudos to Lee for this. He or she did a great job on this.
Yep.
An SBOM is only inventory. If you look at an SBOM, you're going to get component version. You can go out to NVD and look for vulnerabilities, and that's great on its own. With VEX, you can communicate additional information. As the vendor, you can communicate additional information to the consumer. When you see this component in this version in your SBOM and you go out to NVD and you find this vulnerability, maybe we have an issue, not an issue. Maybe we have information that says, well, that's not really exploitable. Mm-hmm. Or maybe we have additional information to provide that can help you with your risk management discussions. Yep. Mm-hmm. They go hand in hand. This is an awesome, in my opinion, this is an awesome statement.
I think that this is one of the best values that comes out of the whole SBOM movement, right? At some point, somebody said, hey, you know what? Everybody's going to get this big list of packages and versions, and they're going to run in circles to figure out if something is actually exploitable or not. How cool would it be if the vendor had a machine-readable way of explaining that out, apart from their usual advisories and everything, that people could consume quickly and actually apply to their environment and say, hey, you know what? It's a CVSS 10, but actually for me, no, it's not. So I agree with Matt. Like, if there is one thing to take out of this article, it's that.
Well, let's end on a high note. It's all about the VEX document. That's the guidance that we really loved coming out of this. And read the article, people. Read it for yourself. Draw your own conclusions. Don't just believe what we say. But the article is out there. It'll be in the show notes. You can listen or you can read it. You can then compare it to what our conclusions were. You can laugh hysterically. But draw your own conclusions. Your mileage may vary. Past performance is no indication of future gain. And all the other things we should put as caveats to this podcast. Thanks for listening to the Security Table podcast.